There's a chapter of the Annabelle story that no one talks about. It's the one that's been buried, kept hidden on purpose. And if I hadn't found out by accident, you might never have heard it. But I did. And trust me, you don't want to know what I learned. It was supposed to be a simple job. I'd been interning at the Warrens Occult Museum for only a few months at the time. Just enough to be familiar with the exhibits, but not enough to feel comfortable with everything that came with them. I'd seen all the cursed items, heard the rumors, the stories, even witnessed some strange things myself. But none of it really hit me the way it did when I stumbled across that journal. It was tucked away in an old wooden filing cabinet, one that had been pushed to the back of the office. The kind of place where things were forgotten, because who would want to remember them? But when I opened it, that's when everything changed. The room was dim, the only light coming from the faint yellow glow of a single desk lamp. The air smelled of dust and old paper, an earthy, musty scent that filled the room like a lingering memory. The walls, covered in eerie photographs of the haunted artifacts, looked like they were watching me. I had become numb to it, almost used to the unsettling atmosphere by then. But that night, there was something else in the air, something heavier. I was organizing the case files when I noticed the journal. It wasn't like the others, neatly typed and printed. This one was old, leather-bound, the kind you'd imagine holding secrets. The cover was cracked, the gold lettering barely legible. It said, "Annabelle, the Untold case." My heart skipped a beat. You see, everyone knows the story of Annabelle. The doll, the haunting, the Warrens' involvement. It's been told 1,000 times, but this journal promised something different. I flipped it open. At first, the pages were filled with what I expected. Details of previous investigations, interviews with people who had encountered the doll, descriptions of strange occurrences, and the usual warnings about not touching the artifacts. But then, the entries changed. The handwriting became more erratic, like the person who wrote it was losing control. There were sketches, detailed, horrifying images of the doll. But these weren't the familiar pictures of Annabelle sitting in her glass case at the museum. No, these were different. These were drawings of her, in places she shouldn't be. One sketch showed her standing at the foot of a bed, staring at a young girl who was sleeping. Another depicted Annabelle in a car, sitting upright in the back seat as though she were alive, her glassy eyes reflecting the streetlights passing by. And there was one drawing that stood out above all. Annabelle, perched on the edge of a table, her head turned slightly to the side, a smile twisted onto her face. But the smile wasn't the doll's. It was the smile of someone else, someone who had been in the room with her. I could feel a chill creep up my spine as I read the words next to the drawing. They said it would never happen again, but it's happening. I can hear it breathing. I can feel it watching. And when the lights go out, I know she's coming. The further I read, the more my stomach turned. The entries spoke of a new case, a case that had been kept secret for years, a case involving a family that had taken the doll in, not knowing its history and the horrors they had suffered because of it. One entry caught my eye. It described the family's home, where strange things began to happen almost immediately. But it wasn't until they let their daughter play with Annabelle that things took a darker turn. The girl, a sweet little thing named Emily, was drawn to the doll from the moment she saw it. Her parents had dismissed it at first, chalking it up to childhood curiosity. But then Emily started talking to the doll, whispering to it late at night when everyone else was asleep. The parents thought nothing of it until the girl began to change. At first, it was small things. She started having vivid nightmares, talking in her sleep about someone standing by the window. Her toys would move on their own. But then, it escalated. One night, Emily was found in the basement, sitting in the dark, staring at Annabelle. Her eyes were wide open, but there was nothing behind them, just empty voids, as though she had lost her soul somewhere between the doll's porcelain arms. And when the parents asked her what had happened, she only replied with one chilling sentence. She told me to come down here. I could feel my heart racing as I read the last entry in the journal. It was dated the day before the family's sudden departure. They had left the house without warning, abandoning everything: furniture, personal belongings, even their dog. All that remained was a house that looked like it had been frozen in time, and Annabelle, sitting alone on the living room floor, staring into nothingness. But it was the final line that froze me in place. Annabelle isn't just a doll. She's the conduit. She's the key. I slammed the journal shut. The weight of what I had just read was suffocating. I wanted to throw it away, forget it ever existed. But something inside me wouldn't let it go. It wasn't just curiosity. It was fear. I knew I couldn't just ignore what I had uncovered. Something about that family, that hidden case, felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain. I decided I had to see it for myself. I had to go to the house. The journey there was uneventful, but the closer I got, the more uneasy I felt. My car seemed to slow down as I approached the street, like something was pulling it back. The house stood at the end of a long driveway, abandoned, but still somehow standing tall, as if daring anyone to enter. I parked at the curb, my hands trembling as I reached for the door handle. I shouldn't have gone inside. The door creaked as I pushed it open, and the scent of mildew hit me instantly. The house felt cold, unnaturally cold. The walls were bare, except for a few faint smudges where pictures had once hung. The furniture had been hastily shoved aside, as if someone had left in a hurry. But it was the living room that caught my attention. Annabelle sat in the center of the room, right where the journal had described. But this wasn't the same Annabelle I had seen in photos. This one was different. Her eyes seemed darker, more intense. Her smile, sharper. I felt it then, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I couldn't shake the feeling. The hairs on my neck stood up, and I turned, expecting to see someone behind me. But there was no one. I backed away slowly, my breathing quickening. That's when I heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible whisper. It came from behind me. Come closer. I didn't have time to think. I bolted for the door, slamming it open and running back to my car. But as I started the engine, I glanced into the rearview mirror. There, in the back seat, sat Annabelle. Her head was tilted slightly to the side, and that twisted smile stretched across her porcelain face. I slammed the car into drive and sped off, heart pounding in my chest. When I got home, I checked my rearview mirror again. There was nothing there. But as I walked into my apartment, something caught my eye. A small porcelain figurine on my kitchen counter. I didn't recognize it. It looked like Annabelle, but it couldn't be. Could it? I knew then that I was wasn't done. I was never going to be done, and neither was Annabelle.